What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more of The Glove. And we're returning to Blue Sunshine, 1983. Thank you again to Nicola. And as I've done in all the reactions this morning, I did just want to mention for those who follow multiple reactions of mine, including those who follow The Cure, because this may affect my normal Cure reaction on Thursday. In the coming week, I'm going to do a few days in a row, maybe 4 or 5, of classical reactions, entire symphonies and concertos and so on. So the regular reactions will be put on pause for roughly the regular part of the week, and when we get to next weekend, I will resume going through all the regular deep dives. So bear with me if classical music's not your thing, though if it is, I highly encourage you to check out what I have coming. In any case, the next tune on Blue Sunshine is Punish Me With Kisses, which sounds like a bit of an oxymoron, a bit of a contradiction. Normally, kisses are not punishment. Of course, there are aspects of psycho-emotional and sexual engagement where punishment might be seen as part of a dynamic that is related to, I suppose, role play and other aspects, but even then you wouldn't expect the agent or the instrument of punishment to be kisses. So it feels like this is punishment in a more figurative or even ironic phrasing. Now, maybe there's a specific interplay at work here that is beyond any generalization. So in that regard, I'll try to catch what I can, and perhaps there's a very particular story at work. But yes, on the surface of it, it almost sounds like a joke phrase, the idea that, oh, please don't punish me with kisses, when you really want someone to kiss you with great aplomb. So let's see what I can catch on a first listen. This is The Glove. The track is Punish Me With Kisses, and it's from their 1983 album, Blue Sunshine. That was at the end there. So sonically, I like that a lot. That's one of my favorites on the album so far, and I do think is it Jeanette Landray, right? I think she sounds very good on this track. A couple melodic flourishes that I really enjoyed. And it's interesting because sonically, I felt like the first minute or so of the tune, it really sounded like it could have been a Susie and the Banshees track, and just, swap out Jeanette's voice with Susie, and I could very much believe that it was a Banshees tune. But then when it picked up a little more energy and drive and pace in, I'd say, the second and third thirds of the track, it felt like a Cure tune. So, like, the first part of it really gave me Susie and the Banshees vibes, and the latter, I don't know, 66% really felt like a Cure song, although at the very end it kind of went back to sounding a bit Banshees-like. So I could feel both sides of the membership here in some of the sonic stylings, and ultimately, again, I understand that the earliest demos for The Glove had Robert on vocals. I suppose if he was on vocals here, it would just even more convey that, like, not the darkest I've heard The Cure, certainly, but not the lightest either. Just sort of that middle range of Cure atmosphere. So yes, at some point maybe it'd be interesting to hear the demos as has been suggested. But for the time being, I really enjoyed the final version of the track here. And as I said, I think Landray sounds good in her vocal performance. Lyrically, it's interesting because I think maybe there's a bit to what I was thinking, the idea of this like complicated dynamic between them sexually, psycho-emotionally, but I was particularly curious about those lines that she like takes her lipstick and she writes something on the mirror before she goes, and she's saying like she can't stay because that would shatter the make-believe of it. So it sounds like they're maybe having these physical interactions, these short but passionate emotional interactions, but they don't want something more serious because that would bring in, heavier emotional connections and like the real life of everything. So it's almost like they are kind of role playing and maybe engage in particular type of sexual intimacy, but they sort of cut it off when it would become more real. And so she leaves, and there's a fantasy where like she comes at night and they have these experiences, these dalliances, and then they deliberately, or at least she deliberately, departs because she doesn't want to experience a more like measured or like cool-headed interaction. So yeah, I feel like there is some like atypical or like a deliberately compartmentalized sexuality happening here if I'm reading those tidbits that I caught. And admittedly, there were a couple lines that I didn't catch in full, so there might be some details I'm missing here. But as I said, sonically, especially when it picked up energy and pace in the second half or so of the tune, I really did enjoy this one. So let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Peace.